Today we're going to read Horrid Henry. Moody Margaret moves in. Mum was on the phone. Of course, we'd be delighted to have Margaret, she said. It would be no trouble at all. Henry stopped breaking the tails off Peter's plastic horses. What? He held. Shh, Henry, said Mum. No, she added. Henry's delighted too. See you Friday. What's going on? Said Henry. Margaret is coming to stay while her parents go on holiday, said Mum. Henry was speechless with horror. She's going to stay here? Yes, said Mum. How long? Said Henry. 2 weeks, said Mum brightly. Horrid Henry could not stand Moody Margaret for more than 2 minutes. 2 weeks, he said. I'll run away. I'll lock her out of the house. I'll pull her hair out. Don't be horrid, Henry, said Mum. Margaret's a lovely girl, and I'm sure we'll have fun. No, we won't, said Henry. Not with the moody old grouch. I'll have fun, said Perfect Peter. I love having guests. She's not sleeping in my room, said Horrid Henry. She can sleep in the cellar. No, said Mum. You'll move into Peter's room and let Margaret have your bed. Horrid Henry opened his mouth to scream, but only a rasping sound came out. He was so appalled he could only gasp. Give up my room, he choked. To Margaret? Margaret spying on his treasures, sleeping on his bed, playing with his toys, while he had to share a room with Peter. No, howled Henry. He fell on the floor and screamed, No! I don't mind giving up my bed for a guest, said Perfect Peter. It's the polite thing to do. Guests come first. Henry stopped howling just long enough to kick Peter. Ow! Screamed Peter. He burst into tears. Mum! Henry yelled, Mum. You horrid boy. Say sorry to Peter. She's not coming, shrieked Henry, and that's final. Go to your room, yelled Mum. Moody Margaret arrived at Henry's house with her parents. 4 suitcases, 7 boxes of toys, 2 pillows, and a trumpet. Margaret won't be any trouble, said her mum. She's always polite, eats everything, and never complains. Isn't that right, Precious? Yes, said Margaret. Margaret's no fusspot, said her dad. She's good as gold, aren't you, Precious? Yes, said Margaret. Have a lovely holiday, said Mum. We will, said Margaret's parents. The door slammed behind them. Moody Margaret marched into the sitting room and swept her finger across the mantelpiece. It's not very clean, is it? She said. You'd never find so much dust in my house. Oh, said Dad. A little dust never hurt anyone, said Mum. I'm allergic, said Margaret. One whiff of dust and I start to achoo! She sneezed. We'll clean up right away, said Mum. Dad mopped, Mum swept, Peter dusted, Henry hoovered, Margaret directed. Henry, you've missed a big dust ball right there, said Margaret, pointing under the sofa. Horrid Henry hoovered as far away from the dust as possible. Not there, here, said Margaret. Henry aimed the hoover at Margaret. He was a fire-breathing dragon burning his prey to a crisp. Help! Screamed Margaret. Henry, said Dad. Don't be horrid, said Mum. I think Henry should be punished, said Margaret. I think he should be locked in his bedroom for 3 weeks. I don't have a bedroom to be locked in, 'cause you're here in it, said Henry. He glared at Margaret. Margaret glared back. I'm the guest, Henry, so you'd better be polite, hissed Margaret. Of course he'll be polite, said Mum. Don't worry, Margaret. Any trouble, you come straight to me. Thank you, said Moody Margaret, smiling. I will. I'm hungry, she added. Why isn't supper ready? It will be soon, said Dad. But I always eat at 6 o'clock, said Margaret. I want to eat now. All right, said Dad. Horrid Henry and Moody Margaret dashed for the seat facing the garden. Margaret got there first. Henry shoved her off. Then Margaret shoved him off. Thud! Henry landed on the floor. Ouch! Said Henry. Let the guest have the chair, said Dad. But that's my chair, said Henry. That's where I always sit. Have my chair, Margaret, said Perfect Peter. I don't mind. I want to sit here, said Moody Margaret. I'm the guest, so I decide. Horrid Henry dragged himself round the table and sat next to Peter. Ouch! Shrieked Margaret. Henry kicked me. No, I didn't, said Henry, outraged. Stop it, Henry, said Mum. That's no way to treat a guest. Henry stuck out his tongue at Moody Margaret. Margaret stuck out her tongue even further, then stomped on his foot. Ouch! Shrieked Henry. Margaret kicked me. Moody Margaret gasped. Oh, I never, ever. So sorry, Henry, she said sweetly. It was an accident. Silly me, I didn't mean to. Really, I didn't. Dad brought the food to the table. What's that? Asked Margaret. Baked beans, corn on the cob, and chicken, said Dad. I don't like baked beans, said Margaret. And I like my corn off the cob. Mum scraped the corn off the cob. No, put the corn on a separate plate, shrieked Margaret. I don't like vegetables touching my meat. Dad got out the pirate plate, the duck plate, and the happy birthday Peter plate. I want the pirate plate, said Margaret, snatching it. I want the pirate plate, said Henry, snatching it back. I don't mind which plate I get, said Perfect Peter. A plate's a plate. No, it isn't, shouted Henry. I'm the guest, shouted Margaret. I get to choose. Give her the pirate plate, Henry, said Dad. It's not fair, said Henry, glaring at his plate decorated with little ducks. She's the guest, said Mum. So, said Henry, wasn't there an ancient Greek who scratched all of his guests on an iron bed if they were too short, or looped over their heads and feet if they were too long? That guy sure knew how to deal with a horrible guest like Moody Margaret. Yuck, said Margaret, spitting out a mouthful of chicken. You put salt on it. Only a little, said Dad. I never eat salt, said Margaret. It's not good for me, and I always have peas at my house. We'll get some tomorrow, said Mum. Peter lay asleep on the top bunk. Horrid Henry sat listening by the door. He'd scattered crumbs all over Margaret's bed. He couldn't wait for her to scream. But there wasn't a sound coming from Henry's room where Margaret the invader lay. Henry couldn't understand it. Sadly, he climbed into, oh, the shame of it, the bottom bunk. Then he screamed. His bed was filled with jam, crumbs, and something squishy, and horrible. Go to sleep, Henry, shouted Dad. That Margaret, he'd booby-trapped the room, cut up her doll's clothes, paint her face purple. Henry smiled grimly. Oh, yes, I'll fix Moody Margaret. Mum and Dad sat in the sitting room watching TV. Moody Margaret appeared on the stairs. I can't sleep with that noise, she said. Mum and Dad looked at each other. We were watching very quietly, dear, said Mum. But I can't sleep if there's any noise in the house, said Margaret. I have very sensitive ears. Mum turned off the TV and picked up her knitting needles. Click, click, click. Margaret reappeared. I can't sleep with that clicking noise, she said. All right, said Mum. She sighed a little. And it's cold in my room, said Moody Margaret. Mum turned up the heat. Margaret reappeared. Now it's too hot, said Moody Margaret. Dad turned down the heat. My room smells funny, said Margaret. My bed is too hard, said Margaret. My room is too stuffy, said Margaret. My room is too light, said Margaret. Good night, Margaret, said Mum. How many more days is she staying, said Dad. Mum looked at the calendar. Only 13, said Mum. Dad hid his face in his hands. I don't know if I can live that long, said Dad. Toot-a-toot, Mum blasted out of bed. Toot-a-toot, Dad blasted out of bed. Toot-toot, toot-toot-toot-a-toot. Toot-a-toot-toot-toot. Henry and Peter blasted out of bed. Margaret marched down the hall playing her trumpet. Toot-a-toot, 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 toot-toot-toot-toot. Margaret, would you mind playing your trumpet a little later, said Dad, clutching his ears. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. That's when I wake up, said Margaret. Could you play a little more softly, said Mum. But I have to practice, said Margaret. The trumpet blared through the house. Toot, toot, toot. Horrid Henry turned on his boom box. Boom, boom, boom. Margaret played the trumpet louder. Toot, toot, toot. Henry blasted his boom box as loud as he could. Boom, boom, boom. Henry, shrieked Mum. Turn that down, bellowed Dad. Quiet, screamed Margaret. I can't practice with all this noise. She put down her trumpet. And I'm hungry. Where's my breakfast? We have breakfast at 8, said Mum. But I want breakfast now, said Margaret. Mum had had enough. No, said Mum firmly. We eat at 8. Margaret opened her mouth and screamed. No one could scream as long or as loud as Moody Margaret. Her piercing screams echoed through the house. All right, said Mum. She knew when she had been beaten. We'll eat now. Henry's diary. Monday. I put crumbs in Margaret's bed. She put jam crusts and slugs in mine. Tuesday. Margaret found my secret biscuits and crisps and ate every single one. Wednesday. I can't play tapes at night because it disturbs grumpy-faced Margaret. Thursday. I can't sing because it disturbs frog face. Friday. I can't breathe because it disturbs Missy Guts. Saturday. I can't stand it no longer. That night, when everyone was asleep, Horrid Henry crept into the sitting room and picked up the phone. I'd like to leave a message, he whispered. Bang, 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 bang. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. Henry sat up in bed. Someone was banging at the front door and ringing the bell. Who could that be at this time of night, your Mum? Dad peeked through the window, then opened the door. Where's my baby? Shouted Margaret's Mum. Where's my baby? Shouted Margaret's Dad. Upstairs, said Mum. Where else? What's happened to her? Shrieked Margaret's Mum. We got her as quick as we could, shrieked Margaret's Dad. Mum and Dad looked at each other. What was going on? She's fine, said Mum. Margaret's Mum and Dad looked at each other. What was going on? But the message said it was an emergency and to come at once, said Margaret's Mum. We cut short our holiday, said Margaret's Dad. What message? Said Mum. What's going on? I can't sleep with all this noise, said Moody Margaret. Margaret and her parents had gone home. What a terrible mix-up, said Mum. Such a shame they cut short their holiday, said Dad. Still, said Mum. She looked at Dad. Said Dad. You don't think that Henry, said Mum. Not even Henry could do something so horrid, said Dad. Mum frowned. Henry, said Mum. Henry continued, sticking Peter's stamps together. Yeah? Do you know anything about a message? Me, said Henry. You, said Mum. No, said Henry. It's a mystery. That's a lie, Henry, said Perfect Peter. It's not, said Henry. It's too, said Peter. I heard you on the phone. Henry lunged at Peter. He was a mad bull charging the matador. Yow! Screeched Peter. Henry stopped. He was in for it now. No pocket money for a year, no sweets for 10 years, no TV ever. Henry squared his shoulders and waited for his punishment. Dad put his feet up. That was a terrible thing to do, said Dad. Mum turned on the TV. Go to your room, said Mum. Henry bounced upstairs. Your room, sweeter words had never been spoken.